Hello and welcome to a DFS preview for the 2023 US Open. My name is Eric and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. And these preview videos I like to do is go over the golf course and tournament information, just give you some data points for researching purposes. I like to go over the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups to see if there's a salary structure that tends to hit the optimal lineup more often than not. I also then like to review the previous tournament, which for this week was the RBC Canadian Open, because I want to show you how well the sweet spot process did and how well the bucket system did, because that's what I conclude all of my preview videos with. If you're unfamiliar with the bucket system, it's basically a tool that helps us figure out which stats finish inside the top 10 of this tournament every single year. That's essentially what it is. And then based off of our field, the player pool that's in this tournament, figures out what kind of projections will finish inside the top 10. And honestly, with very good accuracy, these projections hit their mark. So that's what we'll be covering in this video. Before we get into any of that, I like to go over some giveaway reminders and then run a giveaway. So the very first one that I have is a monthly/weekly giveaway. Now the monthly giveaways are ran the very first Monday of the next month. So we actually just had a monthly giveaway last week. It'd be great if the US Open fell on the first Monday, because it'd be a great one to do. But either way, if you want a chance to win $5 for the weekly giveaway, just follow everything you see on the screen. Be subscribed, comment down below. I post about 6 videos a week. You can get 6 entries for that next week's weekly giveaway. Plus, all of your entries for every single week that you participate go into the monthly giveaway. Now, the caveat here is you only get 1 unique entry per video. So you could comment on a video 30 times. You're only going to get credit for 1 entry for that video. That way, everyone gets a chance to win, essentially. And I just want your participation. That's it. I want to reward you guys for participating on the channel. So if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. And if you want an entry into the giveaway, just comment down below. If you need a topic, just give me your 2 favorite golfers you're going to play this week. Or just give me 1 golfer. Or put anything in the comment section that counts as a participation entry, essentially. So let's go ahead and run this giveaway for this week. I have all of the entries on this spreadsheet. I have a randomizer that goes in here to give us our winner. Just by clicking yes, we have our we have our weekly giveaway winner, Joshua Maz. He was in the live chat with me this last Tuesday. It's the first time I think he's won. So Josh, if you're watching the preview, reach out to me right there, SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com, or if you want to message me on Twitter, you certainly can do that. Let me know where I can send you the $5. So congratulations. He had 1 entry into this giveaway, and he won. So it doesn't matter how many times you participate. Obviously, the more you do participate, the better chances you have to win. But Josh hit the weekly winner, and all of these entries, once again, will be put into the monthly giveaway, which I will run the first Monday of next month. So that's the subscriber giveaway. Now, I have kind of a prize picks giveaway, although I wouldn't so much call this a giveaway. It's more so a refund. So if you sign up if you sign up on Prize Picks using the promo code SweetSpot and put at least $20 in your account, you're going to get $20 back from me. There is a link in the description that can send you to the homepage. Once you hit sign up, that promo code SweetSpot will already be populated in there. And one of the wonderful things is Prize Picks is going to match your deposit up to $100. So your 20 is actually going to turn into 40, and it's really not going to cost you anything other than that initial sign-up information as well as that initial deposit. And every Friday, I like to mention this, every Friday, they basically have a free roll. You put $20 in, you pick anywhere between 4, 5, or 6 picks for that day for Friday. These are on Friday. It's a Friday Protect Flex. And if none of your picks hit, or if you don't win money from any of your picks, Prize Picks gives you back your $20. So it's a protected flex play. It's like a free lotto ticket, essentially. So I usually like to participate, put 6 picks in there because I just want the lotto experience, because that's like if you can do the right picks in golf, you can get up to 30 times your multiplier. I'm playing it for free. I'm just going to keep rolling that wheel, basically. So that is, or spinning the wheel, not rolling the wheel, spinning the wheel. If you're interested in this, again, there's a link in the description, or just go to Prize Picks, download the app on your phone, sign up using the promo code SweetSpot, and put $20 in your account. And you'll get $20 the very next day. So that's available to you guys. Again, link in the description. One last thing to provide you. Now, I usually give an optimizer away, but I don't have that ready for you today. I have a cheat sheet that I provide. There's a link in the description for this. You're going to get everything that I will cover in this preview video. And if you're unaware, I also have a strategy video that I do Tuesday nights. That is a live video. If you want to come in and chat with me, you're more than welcome to. I usually build lineups for anyone who is interested, because I have an optimizer that I use, and the optimizer uses everything that I basically cover in the sweet spot process, whether it's in this preview or in tomorrow's strategy video. Now, I go live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you are interested, just, check YouTube at that time, or if you want, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell notification. That way you can get notified whenever I do go live. Usually try to give you an hour. Like I will post the live video, the scheduled video, an hour beforehand. Just want to make sure that I'm ready. I'd usually do it like a day before or 2 days before, but I like to wait about an hour before, just to make sure, or just let you guys know that I am ready to stream when I say I'm going to. So anyways, this cheat sheet's available for you. It has the bucket system on here, as well as the dream sheet. I will be going over both of these in this video. If you want access, again, there's a link in the description. When you're here, you can utilize all the filters that I have. You don't have to do anything. You can't modify any of this data. I have it protected. But if you wanted to, for whatever reason, go up to the file menu and make a copy. That's the easiest way that you can grab this data for yourself or manipulate it however you'd like. It is there for you. Just make a copy. That's all. Otherwise, you can use the filters that I have on this spreadsheet, both for the dream sheet as well as the bucket system. So again, I will be using my version of this sheet throughout this video. And if you want to follow along, you certainly can. I will have, like I said, I will have an optimizer ready tomorrow. It's going to look a lot like this. Let me go ahead and put it on the screen for you. This is populated with the RBC Canadian Open. I'll clear all this out, update it with the US Open information. I usually wait until I get tee times, because I need those tee times in order for my optimizer to work the way I want it to. So I'm not going to send it to you and then resend you a new one. I usually wait till the tee times come out and then I populate it. But this is what it looks like, and it will build lineups for you. I have all of the results in here to try to figure out what the optimal lineup was for the RBC Canadian Open. I usually post that every Sunday night on Twitter, just a screenshot of what I came up with the optimal. And then I also like to run the sweet spot optimal, because if the optimal and the sweet spot don't, like the sweet spot process does not create the optimal, then I kind of create a more realistic optimal lineup and then share it with you on whether or not it beats the GPP winner or not. More often than not, it does. So we'll double check that in the review video, or the review portion of this preview video. But again, I will have an optimizer for the US Open ready tomorrow. Probably be in the afternoon. It'll be right before I stream. If you want to join me while I'm streaming, I can send it to you while I'm streaming. I'm very active with the chat. So if you're interested, again, in the strategy video or even in the optimizer, join me tomorrow, 8 p.m. live. Okay. Let's go ahead and start with the very first thing that I want to cover in this preview video, and that's the course and tournament information. When it comes to the golf course information that I like to cover in my preview videos, I like to go over the tournament fact sheets first. This gives you a lot of data points you can use for researching. If you are unfamiliar with the site, it is the GCSAA. So you see the acronym right up here, .org. That's the website. Go there, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see the tournament fact sheets. The very first one you see for 2023 will be the US Open because it goes from newest to oldest. You can see all of the tournaments that are there. For any time that the superintendent or the director of golf course and grounds provides this information for the PGA Tour, you can find it here at the GCSAA. Again, these are data points that I like to use. You can see where the location is. Obviously, the Los Angeles Country Club is in Los Angeles, California. That's pretty simple. It is a par 70, 35-35, running at 7,400 yards, and a lot of times these tournament fact sheets provide the stimp meter. There are some websites that use this data, and if you want to, I think, what is it, Fantasy National does like lightning quick or something to that effect. You could use that information at your disposal. I think it's fine because when it comes to fast greens, there are putters on tour that are better on fast greens than they are on slow greens, and vice versa. You're going to probably see that within the data that you research. So go ahead and use that as a piece of information when researching which golfers you want to play this week. The big thing that I like to go to when it comes to the tournament fact sheets is the turf grass. You just see what the greens use, the collars, the approaches, tees, fairways, rough. The one thing to note, on the greens as well as the collars, which a lot of people will call fringe, that is pure distinction creeping bent grass, or just bent grass for short. You can use any bent grass that you want. They're really there are different strains of bent grass, but you don't really have to get that narrow when it comes to your research. Bent grass pretty much grows the same. A lot of the strains are exactly the same. Some are more resistant to other factors, environmental factors like sun, sometimes rain, sea, stuff like that. So you don't really have to worry too much about bent grass. And if you really want to get kind of specific with your research here, you would use strokes gained putting on bent grass. That way you can, make a distinction when it comes to your research as to what types of putters you're looking for. I personally will use bent grass average finishing positions as well as top 10 success rates on bent grass golf courses. I will also mix in Bermuda grass when it comes to my golf course grass that I'm using. And if you want to get narrow with this, you would just use approaches and around the green, because you can see approaches, Bermuda grass, fairways, Bermuda grass, rough, Bermuda grass as well. And just so you are aware, I actually have this in the cheat sheet. If you scroll over to columns AA to AH, you can see the first few are bent grass, and then the next ones after that are Bermuda. And you're going to see that is how many events they've played, their average finishing position. This dates back to 2013, by the way. So too does their top 10 success rate. So you can kind of see, let me zoom in so you guys can see this a little bit better. So you can see top 10 bent percentage. That just is their success rates on bent grass. Last year bent grass means one full calendar year from this day going backwards. This is their average finishing position. And I also have all of that information with Bermuda. This also, when I talk about the model tomorrow, will be included in the sweet spot rank. And the sweet spot rank is already populated. I don't think that's going to change. If we get like some withdrawals and some new golfers added, the rankings could change. But honestly, your number one golfer is going to always, it's going to be Jon Rahm for me. Even when we do this tomorrow, because I go over the sweet spot ranks tomorrow. I don't cover it today, but if you wanted a sneak peek, check out the cheat sheet. This is what I have in my model so far, which again includes the grasses. That's why I mentioned it. So this is available for you on the cheat sheet. Now, coming back to this, you can see, another big thing to think about is maybe the length of the rough. Looks like it's going to be 3 to 4 inches. This golf course is interesting. I'll talk a little bit more. I'll go over kind of the breakdown that I have for what kind of shot shapes matter, in my opinion. But I think it's going to be a very firm and fast golf course. A lot of people talk about how using the ground is going to matter, much like a British Open or, the people across the pond called the Open. It's going to play a lot like that from, you know, a lot of the people that have been at the golf course or who know about this golf course. A lot of shots will be played on the ground. So firm and fast in the fairways. And the fairways are very wide, by the way. We're not going to get that information on the tournament fact sheets here, but that is something worth noting. I did the flyover. I couldn't believe how wide some of these fairways were. I think someone said one of the fairways is 75 yards wide. Yeah, you could land a plane on that. Like, that's pretty wide. The defense of this golf course is going to be the fast and firm part. So there are some interesting fairways that are contoured, you know, in one direction or another. So let's say if you have a fairway that tilts from right to left, a golfer hitting a draw is probably going to bound off of that fairway, whereas a golfer hitting a fade into that fairway is going to be more beneficial, because a fade into a fairway that goes from right to left is going to hold the fairway a little bit easier than the opposite if you were to hit a draw into it. So it's something to make note of. You can go and check the flyover on the USGA website. They have the course, and then they also have, you know, flyover, or if you want to see the scorecard, you certainly can see it there. So remember all that information, use it at your disposal. You can also use Architects George Thomas, as well as Gil Hance. That's a big name with they call it restoration, but renovations. You can see that with a Gil Hance. They usually, Gil Hance is known for bringing a golf course back to the original design, but updating it for the current times. You know, this golf course was built in 1927. They didn't have 460cc drivers made out of titanium and composite materials. They had wooden clubs. You had your persimmons that came out, you know, shortly after. You didn't have the golf ball you did. You didn't have the technology you did. So, you know, without restoration or renovation, a lot of the golf courses become obsolete, become a little easier. So one of Gil Hance's big things is kind of restoring the golf course back to the original character, but enhancing it enough to be viable for today's times. So you can use these architects for your data points when researching. That's why I mention it. And then obviously you have some additional notes here that if you want to take a look at, you certainly can. I don't think it really matters all that much, so I'm not going to go over any of those. One thing that I like to do is I like to kind of map out the golf course. A lot of people do try to figure out, you know, do shot shapes matter here and there. I typically have notes, but I was running behind. I didn't have notes for all 18 holes. I just wanted to provide one because the par 5 on hole 14 doesn't look by the naked eye from the flyover that it's a hole that is easily attackable, you know, going 4 and 2. Looks like it would be much better if you played it in 3 shots trying to get to the green as opposed to 2. So that's why I mentioned that there. I do believe like that's one of those fairways that goes from left to right. Yeah, it's going to go from left to right on the screen. That golfers are going to have to hit a draw into. But I think with any type of club, and the fairway in the first portion of that fairway is pretty wide. Then you have kind of a blind shot, and the fairway, again, it contours from left to right. Golfers, like right-handed golfers, will have the ball below their feet. And when you're trying to hit a shot, like a draw would be very beneficial to hit there. When you're trying to hit that shot from that kind of lie, it's nearly impossible. You just hit something low, and you hit something smothered and low. So it wouldn't be a beneficial shot there. These golfers could probably do it though. You know, they're the best golfers in the world. Or you just hit a high fade if that's possible, because there's trees in the way that you kind of have to hit it over. So it really depends on how the golfers play this golf course. One of the best things that I've ever heard, I think Andy Lack provided it, or his guest did, was that golfers that are cerebral, as in golfers that are very strategic will play this golf course. Well, he didn't say it as a definitive, but basically those types of golfers will play this golf course the best, where you had to think your shot every single hole. Now that's a lot like every golf course, but there are some courses out there you can just bomb it without even thinking about it. So golfers that come to mind for me when it comes to that, if this is more of a strategic golf course than any other one, especially with the firm and fast and playing it on the ground and stuff like that, like the first couple golfers that come to mind would be like a Patrick Cantlay, like a Scotty Scheffler. Like those guys kind of play, Jordan Spieth even. Those guys are, you can tell they think their way around a golf course. I don't have the player list right in front of me, but I mean, here, let's take a look. Yeah, like Scotty, I like. Rahm, sure. I actually do like Brooks, because Brooks is very cerebral with his strategy on a golf course. I mean, that's kind of how he won the PGA Championship. Just hit to the middle of the green every single hole. He could do that here at the US Open and be in contention very easily. Cantlay, I think, is very cerebral. Didn't say that about Victor Hovland, but Victor Hovland's extremely talented. Rory, I would say, is cerebral, but his control's not super great. I think Max Homa and Xander are also cerebral. So too is Jordan Spieth. I'm not going to go through all of these golfers, but if you know golfers who think their way through this golf course and it's not, you know, them relying on their driver or, you know, some kind of bomb and gouge method, that's, I mean, like Justin Rose down here, by the way. Another guy, Corey Connors, another guy who play intelligent shots every single time. I think that would benefit. Those golfers would be beneficial at this tournament. On the screen, you can see what I kind of mapped out for draws and fades. It does kind of look like draws are a bit more useful at this golf course. Now, when I map something out, I'm looking for scoring potential. These shots aren't necessary. These shots, in my opinion, are the best scoring possibilities for our golfers. So, like on hole 1, if you're going for the green in 2, hitting a draw because there's a huge bunker on the left side of the green, something that shapes around that. Also, there's a landing area to the right of the green. If you can land it there with it bouncing left, so with the right-handed golfer, that'd be hitting a draw. By the way, for lefties, just flip what you see on the screen. So draws would be fades, fades would be draws. Well, what I have on the screen is from a right-handed golfer's perspective. So that's kind of what I mapped out. Not a lot of, you know, like it just, any type of shot shape is going to be beneficial here. I think the main thing that I want you to take away from this is these shot shapes probably are mitigated by golfers who are very strategic. You know, golfers who are going to use every inch of the 75-yard wide fairways. You know, a golfer who's going to play all the way to the right for one hole location and then to the left of another. There will be golfers out there that are going to try to test those limits. So if you know those types of golfers, by all means, feel comfortable in playing them. When it comes to shot shape, I don't think it really matters. But again, I include this in my cheat sheet. So if you went to that cheat sheet and you went to column P, you can see I have shot shapes for most of these guys. I can update some of these for you. I know that those two golfers, again, I need to come through here and update this. But anyways, that's kind of what I have for the golf course. You know, there are really good course previews out there by people who pay a little bit more attention. One thing to always note is, or at least something to be cognizant of, there's going to be a lot of fluff. If you can't determine or distinguish from what someone's saying as to what's going to benefit a golfer or what kind of golfer benefits from what these people are saying, ignore it. Skip past it. Like, there's a lot of fluff that people talk about, and you just have to ignore it and just move on. So be cognizant of that. You know, you don't have to listen to a full 2-hour pod or a 1.5-hour pod of someone talking about a golf course and the nerdy things that come around that golf course. If it doesn't help you paint a picture of what kind of golfer is going to do well here. It's just fluff. But if you're interested in that, by all means, listen to it. Now, moving on from there, let's talk about the tournament. It's the U.S. Open. You know, there are so many positions available. Like, I think there were 25 positions available, if I remember, that golfers were able to qualify. You and me could qualify at this event if our handicap was good enough for the qualifier. Some people's aren't, and that's why you can't play in those. But you and I could easily try to qualify for this and make it. That's what's great about these Open Championships. This is the United States Open Championship, so it is the national championship for the U.S. 156 golfers in the field. I believe it's going to be top 65 in ties. It could be top 70. I did not come prepared for that information. I just remember PGA Championship, their cut rules. Like, all these major championships have their own cut rules. So I'm not positive off the top of my head. I'm sure it's top 65 in ties. Yeah, I'm not even going to look it up right now. If for whatever reason you need to go look into it, by all means do so. I don't think it really matters. It's going to be top 16 ties or higher, essentially. Out of 156, that means more golfers will miss the cut than make the cut. That's always something to take into consideration. Another thing to note, we'll go over this in the Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups, like that segment of the preview video, but there are some golfers down here you just don't play. These are golfers that qualified for this event through the qualifiers. Wonderful, they made the tournament, more likely not going to win. And when we go over Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups, you're not going to see an unknown golfer, like a creative player. You won't see one of those guys inside the top 10, and you probably won't see anyone inside the top 20. It's kind of like what I said with the PGA Championship. Do not play any of the PGA pros, like the PGA members. Then Michael Block finishes 15th. Still wasn't in the optimal lineup, and that was the first time we saw, a PGA professional finish inside the top 20 in like the last 10 years. Probably even longer than that. Now, Michael Campbell won the U.S. Open, I believe, a while ago, and he was one of those qualifiers that made it. That's a possibility. I like to play the numbers. So I'll just ignore them. I'm not going to worry about them. That'll eliminate them from my player pool. My player pool will be much smaller because of it. I think you do the same thing. Our strength of field's pretty decent, 857. I think the highest I've ever seen was 918, and that would have been the PGA Championship at Kiowa Island, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is a major championship, so we're gonna have all the golfers, looking for legacy. That just your best golfers in the field, or your best golfers in the world, will be in this field. As for the rest of the tournament information, I think that's it. We could go. I was gonna say we could go over average cut. Like the average score for a cut, or the average score for winning, like the average winning score. I don't think it really matters. This golf course, USGA is going to try to get something at -6, -4 to -6, something like that. Most likely won't go lower than that, but obviously it's a possibility. So I would use that information, use that for your data researches too. -6 is probably a good score. If you need a range, just do -3 to -7. I think that's probably where we're going to see the winning score come from. So that covers the tournament and golf course information for the 2023 U.S. Open. Let's move on to the next piece, which is a lot of people's favorites, Past Optimal and GPP winning lineups. So we started in 2017 while covering the Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups. I do not have a GPP winning lineup for this event, or for this year. I do have an optimal lineup. And that optimal lineup left $300 on the table. So if you're concerned about how much money you should leave on the table, or you think you should leave a lot of money on the table, as we go through this, just pay attention to how much money is left on the table for the perfect lineup. That's what the optimal lineup is, the perfect lineup. So this year, $300 were left on the table. They used all 6 of the golfers at the top of the leaderboard. $9,000 Brooks Koepka, $9,600 Hideki Matsuyama, $6,600 Brian Harmon, $7,400 Tommy Fleetwood, $10,500 Ricky Fowler, and $6,600 Bill Haas. One thing to note with this is I usually like to follow a structure when building lineups. I start with a 10K golfer, a 9K golfer, an 8, 2 7s, and a 6K golfer. So what you'll hear me say throughout this video is start with a 10 or go with 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. It's kind of what I like to say. In this year, we have a 10, but we have 2 9s. And you see there are no 8s. And we don't have 2 7s, but we have 2 6s. Now, I kind of have a rule that you can play or you can make 2 substitutions. So we have our 10, we don't have to make a substitution there. We have our 9, we don't have to make a substitution there, but we don't have an 8. We can just say we sub an 8 up to a 9. Then we have our 7, but because we subbed an 8 up to a 9, most likely we needed to sub our other 7 down to a 6, and that's how you get your 2 substitutions. So again, start with a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 approach, and then just, I guess, fiddle around with it until you figure something that you like, and try not to do any more than 2 substitutions. One of my big things that I try to advocate for or try to persuade you in not doing is going all 8K golfers or doing 3 9K golfers with 3 6K golfers. That would be making more than 2 substitutions. So I think you just start with a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, and you go from there. So that's 2017. 2018, the optimal lineup left $500 on the table. So last year, in 2017, we only left $300. This year, we only left $500. I also don't have a GPP winning score or lineup for this event either, or for this year as well. Your optimal lineup, though, for this year started with another $9,000 Brooks Koepka, $8,100 Tommy Fleetwood, $8,500 Patrick Reed, $8,800 Henrik Stenson, a 75 and a 76. Now, you're probably already yelling at me going, whoa, 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 whoa. You told me not to do 4 8K golfers or 3 9K golfers. Look what we have on the board right now. You got a 9 and 3 8s. Yeah, this is 1 year. This is 1 year that this happened. As we go through this, you're not going to see it again. I want you also to be aware that there's an $11,000 golfer that finished 3rd place. So, yes, this was the optimal lineup. But you could have, I'm guessing, made a lineup something like this, where it would have to include a 6K golfer, like one of our nearest 6K golfers. I guess we have to go outside the top 10. Down here, 60. Let's go with like $6,900 Stricker. And maybe we do $7,100 Tyrrell Hatton and $7,500 Tony Finau. Okay, we're $300 over. So get rid of Finau and do Zach Johnson. There you go, $49,900. I guarantee you this takes down a GPP because you have 3 guys at the top. So start with a 10, really an 11K, a 9K, an 8K, and then 2 $7,100 golfers and a $6,900 golfer. So it is possible, and really, we could sub out Steve Stricker for this Dylan Meyer and Tyrrell Hatton for Tony Finau, and this equals $49,900. So now we can get 4 golfers inside the top 5, and 2 other guys kind of floating down the leaderboard. So just keep that in mind. This would probably win a GPP like the Millie Maker. Moving on to 2019. The optimal lineup, I have an optimal and an alternate. The optimal lineup left $200 on the table. The alternate left $100. And again, I don't have a GPP winning lineup for this year. I feel like I probably do somewhere, but I didn't mark it on the sheet. Anyways, this was at Pebble. This is where Gary Woodland won. But there's Brooks Koepka. So Gary Woodland at $8,000. Justin Rose at $97,000. Xander at $87,000. Adam Scott at $86,000, $79,000, $69,000. Okay, I hear you guys. You're like, whoa. Again, that was 3 8K golfers with a 9K golfer. That's the same thing we just saw in the other one. Yes. You're right. That's already enough times where you can use that. I would say if you're building lineups and you're not one of those types that needs to, where you just build one lineup, say you build 10 lineups. How about this? In 5-year lineups, be balanced. Do a 9 and 3 8s, or do 2 9s, 2 8s, something like that, and then move on from there. In the other 5, or the other half of your lineups, start with a 10K golfer, because the alternate lineup that I created has an 11K golfer, a 9K, an 8K, a 7, and 2 6s. Remember, you can make 2 substitutions, so we move one of our 7s down to a 6. So there you go. Again, you can build a lineup, and just so you're aware, that had 2 6K golfers. I suppose we could have made 2 6K golfers for our alternate lineup here. I can paint these green, just to let us know that this is another alternate lineup. This used up 49,900. So there's a way you can do 11K. Oh, by the way, we've seen a 10K golfer now inside the top 5 each year. Did we not? Yeah, we have Fowler here in 2017. 2018, 11-7 was 3rd place. 2019, 11-6 was 2nd place. Okay, let's move to 2020. Look at that. We have another $11,000 golfer, this time inside the top 6. So not inside the top 5, but pretty darn close. Your optimal lineup here, and by the way, I do have a GPP winning lineup for the $1 contest. Your optimal lineup used $9,900 Bryson. 3 7K golfers. I'll let you read those. It's Matt Wolff, Louis Oosthuizen, and Harris English. 10,100 Xander, and $6,700 Will Zalatoris. So that's a 10-9, 3 7s, and a 6. That still follows a 10-9-8, 7-7-6 method. You're making 1 substitution. You're kicking out an 8K golfer for another 7K golfer. And again, oh, by the way, there's an $11,000 golfer right here in 6th place. Dustin Johnson once again. Let me kind of come back to 2017. Did we have an 11K golfer in the field? We did. Jordan Spieth. Down here, 11,500. Made the cut, but finished 35th. So not super great. So then all we do is we kind of keep in mind there was a $10,000 golfer inside the top 5. Okay, so that was 2020 that we went over. And by the way, your $1 short game winning lineup was the optimal lineup. So the GPP winner had the optimal, meaning the only way to share in first place is to have the optimal. That was pretty impressive. For as long as I've done this, I think I've only noticed 2 or 3 GPP winners having the optimal lineup. This would be the second one that I can just remember off the top of my head. We had a Masters championship or a Masters champion or GPP winner that also had the optimal. And now I think of it, I think maybe the tournament champions. But anyways, does not matter. Still pretty impressive. 2021. Your optimal left $400 on the table. I didn't even mention that. In 2020, it only left $100 on the table. So currently, if you're keeping track at home, how much money you need to leave on the table for the optimal lineup has always been less than $500. Because we had that in 2018, where it was $49,500, but it was $49,700 in 17, $49,800 in 19, $49,900 in 2020, and now $49,600 in 2021. And your optimal lineup here used an 11K golfer, John Rahm, 8K, 7, 9, 6, 6. So just to read that a different way, that's a 10-9-8, 7, 6, 6. We just saw that in 2020, right? 2019. In the alternate lineup that I created, you had a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6. And then obviously 2020 was a 10, 9, 7, 7, 7, 6. Kind of another variation. But anyways, 2 6s. I'm kind of foreshadowing the next year we're probably going to see 2 6s again. So that optimal lineup, I actually have the point totals that I can show you the difference between. Scored 492 points. Your GPP winning lineup, which is the Millie Maker, scored 463. So there was 30 points in between. 29 points in between. And your Millie Maker left $500 on the table. And by the way, here's another one for those that like to pepper the 8K range. That's going to be in your favor or be more balanced. It was $9,500 Morikawa, $9,300 Xander Schauffele, $8,100 Louis Oosthuizen. Then we had 7K, 7K, 7K for $49,500. 2 9s and 8 and 3 7s. So you left $500 on the table. You scored 29 less points than the optimal lineup. And it was without a 10K golfer. So let's see. We went through 5 years now of optimal in GPP winning lineups or GPP winning lineups. And 3 of those, whether you won $1 million or you had the optimal lineup, you did go more balanced. Just throwing that out there. However, once again, so this is also another, year where we've seen 11K golfer inside the top 6. So 2021, we have 1 in the top 6. 2020, we have 1 in the top 6. 2019, we have 1 in the top 6. 2018, we have 1 in the top 6. 2017, we don't. But it's $10,500 Ricky Fowler. Do we have an $11,000 golfer inside the top 5 in 2022? We do. Scotty Scheffler. So for those keeping track at home, keeping score at home, that's out of the last 6 years, 5 of them had an 11K golfer inside the top 6. So if you're afraid of playing an 11K golfer this week, probably don't be. Now, your optimal lineup in 2022 and 2021 did include an 11K golfer. The other years where there were 11K golfers, they were not in the optimal lineup. So it's really up to you. Do you want to play an 11K golfer or no? Personally, I'm never afraid to play an 11K golfer, but there is an argument to be made to go balance this week. Your optimal lineup in 2022, just to complete this: Scotty Scheffler at 11,000, Will Zalatoris at 9,300, Matt Fitzpatrick at 85, 2 7K golfers in Bradley and Hadwin, and then you have a straight min $6,000 Hayden Buckley. That's one thing to note, by the way. We've never, or throughout this, and each year that we've just covered, there hasn't been anything lower than $6,500 in the optimal lineup. This is the first year there was, or that there was. I don't think you want to play a low 6K golfer. I think it's $6,500 or more. So I would keep that kind of in the back of your head when building lineups. Maybe do away with anything $6,400 and less. And just to kind of go over this really quickly, in 2021, $6,800 Guido Migliozzi, $6,700 Mackenzie Hughes. In 2020, we had Will Zalatoris at $6,700, and scrolling down, I guess we had Adam Long, $6,200, that finished 13th place. So that, that works. $69 Ches Reavie, $6,600 Chesson Hadley, and 68, 67, 69. In 2018, we had $6,800 Russell Knox, 69, 68, 65. Those are your only 6K golfers inside the top 20, so not super great in 2018. 2017, we had Xander at 64. Okay, but you had 6,600 Brian Harmon, 6,600 Bill Haas, and then 6,400 Xander Schauffele. $6,200 Trey Mullinax, 68, 65, 65. Okay, so there are years where we have low 6Ks. One thing to kind of mention here, outside of Hayden Buckley last year, each one of these like low 6K golfers ended up being tour winners. Like in 2017, Xander Schauffele was $6,400. I bet you that was before he had won a tournament. So there's Xander there. By the way, Trey Mullinax has won a tournament as well. I think that's funny. So too did Siwoo Kim. And Ches Reavie has won since then. 2018, I guess we don't have a Russell Knox win. Maybe not any of those 6K golfers. Okay, maybe I saw a few that I'm like, oh, hey, look at this. Did Danny Willett, I forget, when did he win the Masters? Was it in 2019 or earlier? I don't remember. I guess what I saw was like Ches Reavie. I saw that Trey Mullinax, Xander Schauffele, Will Zalatoris, Adam Long. Adam Long won the American Express, by the way. Mac Hughes. I guess Guido has not won either. So I guess that's something to keep in mind. Anyways, kind of spiderweb there. I personally don't want to play anyone lower than 65. That's kind of where I was going at with all that, because of everything that I've already seen, it's just not, doesn't seem smart. You know, we don't see it a lot inside the top 10. We don't see it a lot inside the top 20. I'll cover more of the salaries when it comes to the bucket system, because I do cover salaries there. There are salary buckets to choose from. But as for 2022, let me wrap this up. Again, $400 left for the optimal lineup. That scored 489.5 points. Looks like I didn't do a Millie Maker lineup, so the $5 scored 480.5 points. That is a 9-point difference, by the way. So having the optimal lineup is one of the only ways to have taken down that GPP. Did my Sweet Spot Optimal? Okay, the Sweet Spot Optimal actually also beat the $5 GPP winner. So just to go over the GPP winner, it includes the 3 golfers at the top: Fitzpatrick, Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, Adam Hadwin, Denny McCarthy, so 7 and a 6K, and then Cameron Tringali. So that's a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 for the GPP winner. And for the Sweet Spot Optimal, which only left $100 on the table, it was those 3 golfers as well, plus a 7 and 2 6s. So I think one of my more popular builds that I'm going to be focusing on this week when it comes to just salary structures will be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6. I think that's what I'll be doing a lot of. I have not yet built lineups. I haven't started, so I don't know what that looks like, but I am very intrigued with that. And it's also without even looking at 6K golfers. It's just something that kind of feels right for a US Open. So I'll probably do that, but I won't lie. In the back of my head, I'm thinking very balanced. I'm thinking starting with 9Ks because the 9K range this week is super loaded, super good. So I wouldn't mind starting with 1 or 2 of those guys. I'm not going to do 3, but I'll mix in an 8K golfer and then maybe just 3 7s. So we'll see how it ends up, how it works out. I will be building lineups in the strategy video tomorrow. Again, I go live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. If I said 7 earlier, I meant 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll be building lineups at the end of that video. I usually go an hour in talking about strategy, and then I open it up to everybody to come in with their lineup ideas, and we build lineups using the optimizer. So if you're interested, again, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Tuesday night. That's all that I have for pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. I will cover more of the salaries when it comes to the bucket system. But that's all I have for this segment. Let's move on to a review of the RBC Canadian Open. I won't lie, this tournament was super cool. I absolutely enjoyed watching the end of it. Nick Taylor and Tommy Fleetwood tied, went into a playoff, and it took 4 playoff holes for Nick Taylor to win. He's the first Canadian to win in the last 69 years, and I believe he's the first Canadian-born winner in the last 100 years, 100 and some years. So finally, Canada got one. That's awesome. Like, I'm a Minnesota fan. Like, I was born and raised in Minnesota. I have not seen a championship team. I was alive when the Minnesota Twins won both World Series. However, I was just born when they won the first one. So the second one, I was like 4 years old. I can't say I remember it, but I do remember kind of the, gosh, I forget what our little hankies were called with the Twins. I know we had those. I remember cheering when the game was going on, but I don't remember what they're called. Homer hankies, I think, maybe. Anyways, being a Minnesota sports fan, it's like, you know, when Joe Mauer was drafted by the Twins, it's like, yes, a hometown kid could help win a championship for Minnesota. That's a Minnesota dream. You know, one of your own being on a championship team for Minnesota. And then you had Adam Thielen for the Minnesota Vikings. He had a couple good years on the Minnesota Vikings that they kind of went into the playoffs, a little deep in the playoffs, and then obviously it didn't work out. But that was another one of those, like, oh man, a Minnesota born and raised guy that could help. So, hey, when I saw Nick Taylor drain his 72-foot eagle putt, I mean, I yelled out loud. I thought it was awesome. Like, I was hoping for Canada's own to make it happen. And Nick Taylor, of all people, that's pretty cool. So especially when he started out the tournament at +3 after round 1. The cut ended up being -1. He shot 5 under his second round to make the cut and then proceeded to shoot 8 under, 8 or 8 under and 7 under or something like that. It was insane. It was insane. Heartbreak for Tommy Fleetwood. He doesn't get a win, but awesome. Super awesome for Nick Taylor. Like, that was so cool. So cool. When I go over these reviews, I kind of just want to stick to the sweet spot process, but I thought this was one of those weeks where I wanted to do a review of what happened in the tournament. Because it was just, it's unique. And it's one of the coolest things I've seen in golf. Like, Tiger winning the 2019 Masters might be the most memorable moment in golf for me. Because, I mean, I started paying attention to golf, what, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, something? Oh, no. It'd be 20 years ago. Within those 20 years, it's all been Tiger. It's all been Tiger dominated. You know, Torrey Pines was awesome. The U.S. Open, where he basically was perfect. When he shot crazy at the Masters. Those are all distant memories. So 2019 Masters for me, it was the most memorable. And it's probably something I will remember to the day I die. This was one of the coolest. This is up there with a lot of those moments, because it just, the atmosphere, the way he did it, it was awesome. It was so cool. So I loved watching the end of it. I that's all that I got to watch, by the way, in the weekend. I only watched like the final minutes, because I was busy doing other things. So very cool. Now, when it comes to the sweet spot process, I always come to the bucket system portion here. Let me hide some of this information. We don't need to see this, but we do need to see what's on the screen right here. I build this every single week to show me, did my projections hit their mark? And I have my projections over here. If you've never seen these before, let me explain them really quick. In this column, I have my minimum projections. In this column, I have my maximum projections. And each row is an individual bucket. So I have a stat. We have our last year buckets, and they're numbered 1 through 6. So last year bucket 1 is what I would call it. There's basically this is a range, a definition. I'm trying to think of the actual word that I want to call it. But this is the range that qualifies what last year bucket 1 is at golfers that finish inside the top 20 the year before. So those are last year bucket 1 golfers. For my projections, you see it's 2.01 to 3.35. Now, I always round down with this number, and I always round up with this number. So this would actually be 2 to 4 golfers. Now, I added a piece that I have not yet committed to that includes all of the sweet spot scores that are included in my model, and that creates a new projection over here. So you can see 2.91 is the new max projection. Now, just to add another layer to this, and hopefully I don't, lose you guys here, I always want a 2-point buffer between the max projection and the min projection. So this conservative, I call this a conservative projection, but this isn't including the sweet spot ranks. Because this is not over 3, this rounds up to 3, and I want a 2-point buffer. So the minimum will always be 1 in this scenario. So although the bucket over here reads 2 to 4, because it's not a super high quality bucket with the sweet spot score, I drop the minimum down to 1. But I actually do keep this maximum projection over here. So the new, and I know this is kind of messy, the new projection is 1 to 4. And let me go ahead and pull up that optimizer again. When I write this into my optimizer, you can see last year 1, I had 1 to 4. That's, when you include the buckets. So just to show you that I am absolutely truthful with this when I go through it. That's what I see. That's how I view the bucket system. Now, when it comes to these projections, so each one of these projections all the way down, including the max projection over here, I have the success column. Success will count how many golfers were inside the top 10, which you can see right here under this year's totals. How many were inside the top 10? Does that number fall inside my projections? If yes, then boom, it's a success. If not, did the optimal lineup, the number inside the optimal lineup, fall inside these projections? If yes, then perfect. If not, then no. And you can see down here, I have one bucket that was a no. Every other bucket was a success. So 35 out of 36 buckets were successful. The only bucket that was not was the 7K range. But guess what? There were 6 inside the top 10. There were 4 in the optimal lineup. 4. you're not going to get there. And I'll show you what the optimal lineup left a lot of money on the table. You're not going to get there. However, when we do follow the sweet spot optimal, I only used 3. That would fit inside the projections. Therefore, the buckets would be 100% successful. So let's go ahead and take a look at the optimal, the GPP winning lineup, as well as the sweet spot optimal. If the sweet spot optimal beats out the, actually, let me back up. There's one more piece to add, because that goes into the sweet spot optimal. But keep this on pause for now. Going to 2023, or the results here, I'm going to go ahead and put a filter on this. I'm going to actually hide this because we don't need it. The whole sweet spot process. So we just went over the bucket system, and I just showed you 35 out of 36 buckets were successful. The second piece, or the last piece, I should say, are the marquee tee times. So what I do every single week is I add up the sweet spot ranks, and I rank order them from top to bottom. So I look at each group, I add their ranks, and I compare them to all the other groups that are in the field. And then that's how I create my ranking, or my marquee tee times. I always create 9 because unfortunately my optimizer only can have 9 with all the other criteria that I have in there. I can't put any more marquee tee times. I'd only want 10 if I'm being honest. So 9 is just fine. Out of the 9 marquee tee times, I tell you select 2 to 4. 2 to 4 groups and only 1 golfer from each of those groups. Put those and anchor around them, or anchor those golfers in your lineup. So right away, what we can tell, these little black tick marks that you see on the screen, those are golfers in the optimal lineup. Nick Taylor, Aaron Rai, Tyrrell Hatton, and Brandon Wu. 4 golfers in the marquee tee times. Boom. 100% success when it comes to the marquee tee times. Don't even have to talk about any more of those. But you can also see I have some green highlights on the salaries. These indicate the sweet spot optimal, so they're not the same. So you can kind of already paint a picture of, okay, so the optimal lineup isn't the sweet spot optimal, so something's going on there. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the sweet spot optimal, or the optimal and everything else, GPP and sweet spot are. Your optimal left $1,600 on the table. That's impossible. You're never going to build a lineup that does that. It scored 672 points. So the golfers in that optimal were Tyrrell Hatton at $10,200, $8,100 Nick Taylor, $7,600 Aaron Rai, $7,100 CT Pan, $7,900 Eric Cole, and $7,500 Brandon Wu. 4 7K golfers, 1 10K golfer, and 1 8K golfer. This equals 48,400. Again, that's pretty impossible to get to. Your GPP winning lineup for the $5 drive the green scored 652.5 points. That is within 20 points of the optimal. That's pretty darn good. It left $500 on the table, and it used Taylor, Fleetwood, Hatton, CT Pan, who was one of my favorite golfers this week, Mark Hubbard, and Doug Yim. Pretty darn good right there. Again, that scored 652.5 points. So if the buckets were 35 out of 36 correct, and 4 golfers in the optimal lineup were in the marquee tee times and not playing together, that means sweet spot optimal had to have been successful, right? Wrong. I think a lot of it, so the sweet spot optimal scored 635.5, and it used Hatton, Nick Taylor, Rai, CT Pan, Will Gordon, and scrolling down to Shane Lowry. Because what I had in the in the bucket system was to select at least 1 9K golfer. Well, when you look at the top of the leaderboard, if I go back to this page, our 9K golfer finished second place. That was Tommy Fleetwood. He was actually in group 12. So too was Nick Taylor, who finished in first place. So right away, those 2 golfers play together Thursday, Friday, and the sweet spot rules say can't pair up golfers together, or you shouldn't, because the likelihood of them being in the optimal lineup together, very unlikely. I have analyzed this for the last 2 years. I've noticed that rarely happens. So I play the numbers. And that's kind of why I say it that way. So that was our $9,600 golfer inside the top 10, but so too was Justin Rose. He was in group 8. The buckets, when you put them all together and you're trying to find the golfers, it is very hard and difficult to pair up Nick Taylor with Justin Rose, and especially when I was telling you wanted to play a 10K golfer. So like Tyrrell Hatton, Rose, and Nick Taylor, you just couldn't provide, or you couldn't put enough golfers together in the buckets that you wanted in the optimizer to create a lineup that did any better than what I showed you. So 635 was the highest I could get with any combination of golfers. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that a lot of these golfers were playing together. Not every one of them were in the optimal lineup. And also Rory McIlroy kind of crapping the bed on Sunday's round. He shot 72. See everyone else inside the top 8? No one shot worse than 71. So Rory had a really bad Sunday. Had he won this tournament or would have been inside the top 3 or top 2, I would have done really well this week. We actually had two viewers of this channel, or really participants, Ryan Henson and Nick. Guru Nick is what he goes off of. You can see that on DK. Both of those guys had really good weeks. Ryan won the Drive the Green. Nick won a GPP that got him $15,000. And both of them used CT Pan, which we were on quite heavily during the strategy video. I tried going back and seeing if we built any of those lineups for them, and I didn't notice that we did. But they did have CT Pan in there quite a bit. I believe both played Tyrrell Hatton and Justin Rose, I think. So congratulations to those guys for winning the oodles and oodles of money that they did. That covers the review for the RBC Canadian Open, which means the last piece to get into is the bucket system for the US Open. I'm going to go bucket by bucket. So if you want to follow along with me, go ahead, check out the link in the description that says cheat sheet. Click that link, come to the bucket system page. Let me just show it on the screen. So you go to the bucket system, go ahead, use one of the filters, bucket system, and again, follow along with me. We're going to go bucket by bucket, and I'm going to start with the last year buckets. Last year buckets, I have ranges for each of these. If you're new to the channel, I do have a video in the description that explains all about the bucket system. If you want to go check it out really quick, go do so. But basically, I go by every 20th point position. So last year, ones mean first to 20th place. 2 would be 20 to 40, so on and so forth. You can see that right here. I did not plays and missed cuts. Missed cuts and withdrawals are basically your last year 5. And I have projections for each of these buckets that I think are going to finish inside the top 10. So how this reads, if you're unfamiliar, anything in the min projection, we always round down. So 2.01, we round down. Anything in the max projection, we round up. So 3.34, that rounds up to 4. So really this projection says 2 to 4. There is another piece that I use when determining the true projections, and that's this column over here, which you're not going to see on the cheat sheet. This is just for my information. This is where I include the sweet spot ranks and try to determine the actual quality of the bucket. So if it's not, a super high quality, then that brings this max projection down. So 2.86 would be, it wouldn't so much be the new maximum projection, but I look at this and I say, okay, this rounds up to 3. Now I want a 2-point buffer between the max and the min. So the minimum then becomes 1. The new minimum becomes 1. So this true projection now is 1 to 4. And that's how I look at it. So 1 to 4 is the new projection. And that's for last year 1 golfers. So you can see this all the way throughout each of these buckets, that's how I want you to look at the projections. So really 1 to 4 last year ones. Well, who are those golfers? Again, you can follow along with me on the cheat sheet. Just go to the dream sheet portion of this. Go into the last year bucket. Well, first of all, make sure all of the filters are cleared out. I'm going to just clean this up a little bit. And I'm also going to lock this in. All right. So go ahead and go into last year ones, clear everything, or the last year bucket, clear everything but last year ones. And out of this bucket, yeah, we got a lot of good golfers. Projections 1 to 4. Scheffler, Rahm, Cantlay, McIlroy, Schauffele, Morikawa, so on and so forth. Now I'm going to kind of cruise through this. I'm getting a migraine, so let's go ahead and cruise on through. I'll talk more about this tomorrow in the anchor bucket portion of the strategy video. But again, your projections 1 to 4 out of this bucket. We have 0 to 2 last year 2s. Let me go ahead and show you that. Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, Sam Burns. So really 0 to 2, not super confident. Definitely something, I mean, just I'd do a max of 2 of the golfers from this bucket. Last year 3. That's also 0 to 2 as well. Brooks Koepka, Max Homa. Yeah, this is a crazy one to choose from. We got a lot of live golfers here. So 0 to 2 here as well. Strokes gained 4 is 0 to 2 as well, but we only have 1 golfer in that bucket. Let's see who it is. Harris English. Interesting. So yeah, play him, you know, sparingly. Last year 5 is 1 to 3. Last year 5, not last year 3. Yeah, this is interesting. 1 to 3 golfers. So you can see a lot of good golfers here. Take your pick. Lots of good ones here. Again, you can do this. You can follow along with me on the cheat sheet. And then the last one is last year 6s. And last year 6, I'm sorry, that is 0 to 2. So very interesting here as well. Jason Day and Thigala, as well as Ricky Fowler. Those are probably the only golfers I really care about, but yeah, interesting nonetheless. The last week buckets are looking at any guy who played at the RBC Canadian Open. And I'm going to apologize because this migraine is getting really bad. So I am just going to show you the projections. We're not going to go golfer by golfer, but if you want to take a look, check out the cheat sheet. You can do all those filters that I was just showing you. Again, just make sure all your filters are cleared out, and then, you know, go into each one of these, clear them out, and just pick the individual buckets you want to look at. So, last week ones, 0 to 2. So these are golfers who top 20 last week at the RBC Canadian Open. My projection to finish inside the top 10 is 0 to 2. So you can pick up to 2, but probably don't do more than that. 0 to 2 last week 2s, 0 to 2 last week 3s, 0 to 2 last week 4s, but there's only 1 golfer in that bucket. Also be cognizant of how few golfers are in each of these buckets. 3 and 6 for last week 2 and 3. Last week 5 are missed cuts. We only have 11 in the field, and that's 0 to 2. You're going to probably want to play most of your golfers in this last week 6 bucket. Moving to the next one, I have marked as tournament history because this is the US Open. There's no such thing as course history because we don't really see the same golf courses over and over. But yeah, tournament history here. The buckets are the same way, 1 to 20 and so on and so forth. 0 to 2 is what I'm projecting in tournament history 1. There are only 3 golfers in that bucket, so be careful. 1 to 3 in tournament history 2. 2 to 4 in tournament history 3, but there's 34 golfers there. 0 to 2 in a tournament history 4, 0 to 2 in tournament history 5, and 0 to 2 in tournament history 6. So really the meat and potatoes are in these 3 buckets, tournament history 2, 3, and 4. So when you do check the cheat sheet for that, you know, play your golfers or select the golfers in these buckets accordingly. Recent form buckets. This again is how well they've been doing the last 7 weeks. That's what my recent form looks at. So I'm projecting 1 to 3 that has the best recent form. That's that 1 to 20 range. There are 14 golfers in that bucket this week. 1 to 4 recent form 2s. 1 to 3 recent form 3s. 0 to 2 recent form 4s, and then 0 to 2 for each of the other recent forms. These are both mostly golfers who have not played on the PGA Tour. You know, a lot of these would be your qualifiers down here in the recent form 6s. And recent form 5s, this is a missed cut or a withdraw average, so that's not super great. So, you know, play with caution there, 0 to 2. I'm going to go down to the strokes gain buckets. Usually I'll probably talk about salaries, but I'll say that here to the end. Strokes gain buckets. Again, if you're unfamiliar with how I do this, check out the video in the description below. That will explain all about my strokes gain buckets. But strokes gain 1, and by the way, you can, again, find who these golfers are under the strokes gain buckets. And the best way that I think you should do it is sort from top to bottom. They're all color coordinated. So if you want to check out what strokes gain 1, 2, 3, and 4, all that stuff, you can check it there. 2 to 5 is my strokes gain 1 projection. Be careful here because you got a lot of good golfers that are priced up. That will make it impossible to select more than 2. And you might not even want to select more than 2. Maybe 2 is the most that you could select. So be cognizant of that. Looks like we kind of have 0 to 2 for the rest of these buckets. Actually, we have 1 to 3 for strokes gain 3. But 0 to 2 strokes gain 2, 1 to 3 strokes gain 3, 0 to 2 strokes gain 4, 0 to 2 strokes gain 5, 0 to 2 strokes gain 6s. These are also your qualifiers, by the way. You have 35 golfers in that bucket. It's not a huge success rate, for being honest. And the last bucket to talk about are the salary buckets. This is interesting. 0 to 2, 10K and above. I would have imagined this would have been higher, like 1 to 3, or yeah, it would probably be 1 to 3, but this isn't really giving us confidence that we want to play a 10K golfer, which is very interesting. 9K golfers, on the other hand, 1 to 3 is the projection there. 0 to 2 for 8K golfers. I'd say 1 to 4, 7K golfers, 0 to 2 high 6Ks, and 0 to 2 low 6Ks. So, yeah, that balance build we were talking about in the pass optimal and GPP wing lineups, it seems probably the best way to build lineups this week. I might follow that. Although going 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6 also is another one that I kind of want to do. You can kind of see that working out there. But again, I apologize. My migraine is kicking my butt right now. So we're going to end the video a little bit shorter than we usually do. I usually cover more of the buckets, but this is kicking my butt. So I'm just going to end it. Check out the giveaway reminders at the beginning of the video. See how you can get involved with that. And then join me for the strategy video tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I go live and we'll have chats there where we can talk about lineup building. All right, everyone. Sorry for the shortness of this, but just can't do it. Go here, and thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.